So YouTube cut off that last video, so I'm going to redo this part. I don't really, I don't remember how much I had gotten into in the third one. And the basic issue is, okay, I agree about there is a motivation for religiousness. The organized religion is kind of for these oppressive reasons, but the reason that works is because people do have this spiritual desires, these spiritual experiences. I've talked about that before, that just like we have experiences of hunger, of lust, there's a feeling, you know, that you get, and the experiences you have while you feel this feeling, those are your spiritual experiences. Why do we have them? I mean, they seem all metaphysical. No, they come down to some biological reason, with transcendence being the reason. You can't classically transcend. I do believe in enlightenment and transcendence, but you can't transcend, you know, and become something other than your parts. Okay. But what you can do is you could transcend, and again, I forget if this part, you know, if I'm repeating what did make it in the video, but whatever. That you can get to a level of abstraction where certain aspects of the substance of the parts don't seem to matter, and just the arrangement. The abstractions deals with arrangement, and so it doesn't matter. Like when we have the idea of the Mona Lisa, you know, an art class can take a digital image of the Mona Lisa, and they can do art criticism with it. Okay, it's not the original Mona Lisa. It consists of different actual material parts, but in art analysis, to a large degree, that doesn't matter. But if you come into a lot of detail, well, yeah, it might matter. Somebody might need to get close, but if you had a good enough reproduction, they could even get in close and see what kind of brush strokes were taken. So anyway, so with transcendence, we do have this progression, and I do believe what we do is we abstract beyond the thresholds of individuality, where we associate just with ourselves, or just with our family, or just with our village, or just with our nation, you know, and you can get higher and more inclusive abstractions, where, the way I put it, you identify with a larger group, you identify your identity with this larger group of which you're a part. All right, but what I really also went into is where I really disagree is in this analysis of language, or to use it as an epitome, or the idea that a concept or word is negentropic. No, that to me is just you know, a misapprehension. It's like the word still is made of its parts. Just because those parts can be rendered with certain abstractions as meaningless, because you can take the word parts from your mind onto a piece of paper. You can write it which you can write it, or you can have it a tape recorder. There's always these different forms where the constituents don't matter, and we see that as the same word to give it this continuity. But it's really physical transference. You know, the word doesn't copy itself. It doesn't have some magical. The word that I get, apple, when you teach me the word apple in my head isn't really the same word as yours. You know, you didn't divide yours and keep your copy or anything like that. It's amplification. It's like if you were to play the word apple, you have it on a tape, and you're going to play that tape through a speaker. Okay. You put energy in to put it into the sound waves. And it goes out, and 1 million people are going to record it. Well, all of those tape recorders have batteries for a reason, because it's signal processing. No word came in there. They took a signal and they created a reproduction, you can consider it as, but it's a model, a separate model. In the case of a word, it is a separate word. It's as if with the dividing an apple, instead I said, come, let's everybody have the apple, but I don't divide it. You scan it, and then you go synthetically reproduce it, all the sugars, the starches, everything, whatever's in there, and you reproduce it. Does that make a physical apple negentropic because somebody can make a reproduction of it, given enough information? No. You know, and there's also just common sense entropy involved with words. If a culture doesn't have any apples, the apples all go extinct. They get attacked by a fungus, go extinct. You know, that its meaning will change. And in the past, the word's meaning is changing and evolving, whether it's decaying or not. I mean, The concept of an apple for a particular person is based on the apples that they ate or were exposed to. When apples were introduced in the United States and they were a more bitter variety in general, used for cider, concept of an apple was different. So there's entropy at every level, and just like the tape recorder example, in your mind there's a certain energy and configuration. You can imagine brain damage erase your knowledge of what an apple is, and maybe a very specialized, localized one would take just that knowledge away. That difference is the energy associated with that idea. If you divide that energy is fungible and consumable, and and the chemicals as well involved. If you divide those up between thousands or millions of speakers, or even 10, there's not enough energy to form an idea in their brains. There's not enough material there to make an influence. Again, it's like the tape recorder. It puts its own batteries. Food you've eaten, right? Food I have eaten, I use to amplify audio signals, and I create a model in reaction to that. It's not even really a reproduction in the sense that maybe, hopefully, it's a reproduction. All we really know is that it's a new model made in reaction to this energy that was spent. There's no property of the word itself that makes it copy itself or anything like that. If you're teaching people the word apple, and of course, if they don't listen, they're not going to get it. But even if they listen, repeat the word apple, but don't really think about it, they don't draw energy from their own batteries, their own energy source, and put two and two together. Next time they see that thing, they might be, oh, I don't remember the name, but I've seen it before. They might not even remember seeing it. How much attention and energy they put into learning it is a factor. Why? Because it's signal processing, and they are amplifying a signal and processing it to create this model. They are creating a reproduction. There's no property, in this word that makes it copied or copyable or defies entropy. The appearance of defying that is because the law of entropy always said if you put energy into the system, you can lower the entropy. You can put energy into a system to pump energy out of the system, for example. You can do that. That's what every biological system does that. Okay, so we're pumping energy into words constantly, because there is an apple there. If the apple goes away and the energy isn't pumped in, it decays really fast, right? But we're pumping energy in there to keep it alive. That's not a defiance of, that doesn't make it negentropic. It's because all the rules of entropy still apply. It's only negentropic in the sense that at a certain level of abstraction, just like you can ignore if the Mona Lisa is made of pixels or the original oil paint or a photograph, or just like you can ignore those differences in a lot of cases. Well, fine, you can ignore the differences, but it doesn't mean the differences are really there. It doesn't mean a fundamental idea like the application of the basic degradation of things and entropy and time doesn't apply. It does not mean that words are timeless. The fact that that's like saying the TV screen is timeless. Just so long as I keep pumping energy into it forever, there'll be something on the screen, even if it's static. That doesn't make it timeless. Words are continually having energy pumped into them every time you use them, every time you hear somebody else use them. And they're having this energy put in there. And of course, in a system like that, entropy can be pumped arbitrarily here and there, and things can decay or not decay, and they're always evolving and changing. The words are always evolving and changing, just like the other organic materials. And we shouldn't get confused just because, there's a real apple that rots one way, and there's an electrochemical phenomena called the concept of apple that decays a different way. Of course, decays somewhat differently. But if anything, the ideas decay even quicker. I mean, that apple takes longer to rot than it does for you to die and in an instant lose your thought process. All right, cheers.